What's up, Freshman Challenge? I'm so glad to be here with you guys tonight. We've been going through a series on heart attitudes. And heart attitudes are simply just what it looks like to follow Jesus, to walk with him in godly community, and how the attitudes of our heart can change to look more like him and to love each other and build each other up. And so as we get this night rolling, I just want to say, no matter who you are or where you're coming from, you're welcome here. Man, maybe you've grown up in church or going to church a little bit, but you're coming to college and you're like, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know if this is actually what I want to live my life for. Man, you're welcome here. If you're like totally on fire for Jesus and you're like, man, I want to look like him and I want to tell everybody else about him, you're welcome here. And if you're like, I'm coming here, I don't even know. I don't know what any of this stuff is. I don't ever think I've even read a page of the Bible in my whole life. You're welcome here. So just relax, because just know that you're at home here and you belong, and we love you. So tonight we're going to talk about heart attitude number 3, which is giving and receiving spiritual correction. Now, if you're like me, you hear that and you're like, ugh, spiritual correction? It kind of doesn't sit very well with you. You're like, are you telling me that someone might be telling me how to live my life? Like, giving correction? Are you telling me that I might like give someone else correction or tell them how to live their life? And it sounds a little like off-putting, maybe judgmental, and super uncomfortable. I get you. I totally get you, because that's how I feel about it. But I have seen this happen in godly Christian community where you build each other up and you love each other. And as you see things in each other's life, you do it, you correct out of love and in humility, and not out of a spirit to tear down or of pride. And so, man, it can be done so well, and it can be such a blessing. And that's our goal for tonight, is just to get to a place where we can actually see doing this and receiving it in a way that lifts people up and doesn't tear people down. So Hebrews 13:3 says, but encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Again, this is the beauty of Christian community. We get to encourage each other and to build each other up. And when sin is deceiving me, I get to be called out by someone else. I get to be, they get to look into my life and say, Bethany, this is what I'm seeing. And it's beautiful, and it's a blessing to me. And it's aimed at my good, not at my tearing down. So guys, this can be done in a really great way, and we need it. Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Proverbs 16:2 says, all a man's ways seem innocent to him, but motives are weighed by the Lord. And this just shows us that our hearts are deceitful. We don't always check our motives and know exactly why we're doing things, or we can feel like we're doing things that are fine, but we're deceived, you know? And so we need the eyes of each other, of a loving community, to help build us up and help us grow in these areas. So tonight I just want to give us 4 ideas and ways we can give spiritual correction and input better, and 4 ways that we can receive spiritual correction and input better. So let's start with giving. Number 1, come in humility. Guys, this is huge. If you're about to go tell someone about what you see in their life and you're like, I'm doing pretty good, I don't got that. Like, this person needs to hear what I have to say, because, man, I've got it all together and they really need my help. You probably want to pause. It's a little bit of a yellow flag. Go search your heart. Ask the Lord to search your heart and root out that pride that's there. If you're going in a spirit of pride, it's not a good place to start when giving correction. Matthew 7:3-5 says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye. Then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And this just shows us, again, this is Jesus telling us, guys, search your heart. You might not be seeing things clear either. And so get yourself right before the Lord before you go give input to someone else. Number 2, ask clarifying questions. This can be really helpful just to break down the barrier, to let the person know that you care about them and you care about where they're coming from. And again, you might not see everything clearly in their life. You don't know their motives. You don't know their heart. And so asking questions can help them feel known and loved as you go throughout this process. So ask questions to get a better idea of where that person is coming from. Number 3, be graciously straightforward. Now, this is when it comes time to actually give the input. If you hint around and beat around the bush, it's just not going to help. Be straightforward and do it in a gracious, loving way. Say what you see in love and allow them to process that and deal with it and receive that from you. Number 4, build up, don't tear down. Guys, this is huge. This is so huge. We have to be doing this for the good of our brothers and sisters, for the good of our friends around us. Man, this has to be aimed at their good, not at tearing them down or kind of dominating over them or showing how you're better than them. I was reading an article on desiring God, and I just want to read a little portion of it to you. When you expose sin and call for repentance, aim to build your brother in his faith, hope, and love. Resist the natural, sinful impulse to heap guilt and tear down, and instead correct in order to encourage. All Christian correction aims at restoration. Guys, this is what we want. We want to restore each other. We want to love each other. We want to build each other up. So aim for that. All right, let's move on to receiving. Number 1, receive it. Receive the input. Guys, this is where humility comes in for the receiving part. It is humbling to have someone point out something in your life that might be off. Man, it's so humbling. But resist the urge to defend yourself or to justify yourself and just get really defensive. Man, it's hard for the other person. If they're coming in the right spirit, it's hard for them to do what they're doing. It takes courage. And so just try to receive it. If you can, say thank you. Recognize that they have your best in mind. Number 2, ask God what he thinks. This is when we take that input and we send it up to the Lord and we say, Lord, what is this? Search my heart. Is this there? Or maybe you right away, you know it's there and you just need to do some business with God. You need to talk through that with him. But process it with the Lord, pray through it, filter it through scripture, and see what God has to say about it. Number 3, try and believe that correction is a gift. Through this whole process, it's just something that's hard to remember, right? That correction is for our benefit. It's for our good. But seek to believe that. Proverbs 27:6 says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Guys, you don't want people to just tell you everything's good all the time. Like your enemy would do that. Just tell you what you want to hear. But a true friend, they'll speak into the hard. And they have your best interest in mind. And it might hurt sometimes, but it's coming from a good spot. Number 4, go back to the person who gave you the input. Guys, step 4 is for people like me who don't do step 1 very well. Man, I have a hard time receiving input sometimes, and I don't always do well. I don't usually thank the person right when they tell it to me. And so this is an opportunity after you've processed it with the Lord, after you've recognized that maybe some of what they're saying was true or all of what they're saying is true. Now you get to go back to that person and say, hey, thanks for that. I know that you love me enough to speak into my life. It's huge. Guys, Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Again, guys, all of this is for building up, edifying, sharpening, and is to be done in love and humility and for the good of others. So I hope this has been helpful, and now you guys are going to go into some discussion time with your small groups and just kind of sort through these things, hash through these things, and talk through them. And we'll be back in a few minutes. Well, welcome back, guys. I hope you had a great discussion. As we head out tonight, I just want to leave you with a challenge. And this is mainly for receiving input. Man, I just encourage you guys, even now, even tonight, tomorrow, sometime this week, go to someone, go to a trusted friend and ask them, "Hey, do you see anything in my life? Like, do you see anything that I need to grow in? Do you see something that I'm off in that I don't see?" And let them share with you. And maybe they have nothing to say, and that's fine. But tell them, "Hey, if you ever do see something in my life, will you tell me?" Like, you have permission to tell me. Giving someone permission to speak into your life, guys, it's just straight up wise. Proverbs 19:20 says, "Listen to advice and accept instruction, and in the end you will be wise." If you're seeking wisdom, this is your next step. All right, guys, I hope you had a great night, and we'll see you next week with Heart Attitude number 4.